So I think people are able to see my screen. Thank you. So fine. So just to like keep up with the pace. So we have discussed about what is cloud and how a cloud infrastructure is built and what is we have spoken on. We have been discussing on private, public, and hybrid clouds. So it is as simple as that. Okay, take say for example you have your system. On top of it you would have placed like a VMware kind of a solution on which on top of it you will launch like you will go ahead and create virtual systems, right? So that is how like even a cloud infrastructure works. Like that is how the underneath there is still a hardware, okay, sitting out somewhere in data centers, okay, and top of it there are hypervisors and like virtualization platforms upon which companies actually create and give you this cloud solutions. So when you say private, there is a dedicated hardware. Guys, like if you're not talking, please go on mute. Thank you. So there is a dedicated hardware in kind of a private cloud. So that can happen within your organization itself. Within an organization, you can set up a cloud environment that is private, or you can actually give this outsource this data to kind of a cloud provider who can still do this, and there is a dedicated hardware for you that is called a private. Okay. So in public, what happens is like the underlying hardware is being kind of shared with everyone. Okay, so that is simply as simple as that of a public cloud. So what happens is if your enterprise is one, and then there is like there are n number of enterprises, all these 10 enterprises will just come and sit under a single piece of hardware, but the hardware will be shared among these enterprises, but they will not know, like if the hardware is being shared or not. Only and if only like someone go ahead and insist that I need a private hardware, so only then like you will get a private environment. Otherwise, it is like it is a shared infrastructure. So hybrid cloud. So hybrid cloud comes in place where so private is something private cloud when compared to public is relatively costlier. Okay, so people go for private cloud because like they want their data to be secure. There are organizations who say, okay, fine. See, I have my built my private cloud environment. At the same time, I want to kind of integrate or like place my I will have my sensitive data within my organization. All the like public kind of data or like very less.
Jothy, we can't hear you, Jothy. Jothy Prakash? Mr. Jothy Prakash?
Yeah, hi Satish. 1 minute. Wait, I'll put.
Okay. Now it is clear. Participants, please make sure that you're attending session either in this GoToMeeting app or else in the YouTube link, which we have shared it recently. And the feedback form for both will be shared as in the chat box as well as in the YouTube link.
So Satish, able to hear me, right?
Yes, you can go on, Jothy.
Okay. Ma'am, your screen is being shared, like you can cut your video.
Yes. Now it is clear. Your screen is also shared. You can go on, Jothy.
Okay. So you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, you can go on, sir.
Okay, fine. So yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. Like I was just getting some calls. I will just put my phone on, like airplane mode. So now what happens is, like we have discussed about the private, public, and the hybrid clouds. So what are the services, like they are providing? Like it's SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. Okay, SaaS is like a software as a service, like where these are like a kind of user experience, like your Google Drives, or you say Gmail and Office 365. In terms of Teams, if you're using Teams, or if you're using the Outlook application. So all these are kind of software as a service, like which is being given to you. So these the people who are using this are just nothing but like the end users like you and me who are actually using these services. Okay, so all these services are being actually hosted on a cloud environment, but still, like what we see is these applications sitting on some hardware, but these are actually sitting on the cloud. So this service, like this software is kind of given to us. So there are different services. For example, even if you go deep into the Google services, like from your Gmail, if you go there, you can find the Drive. Okay, you can also find like a PPT or a Google Doc or Google Sheets. Like all these are just applications, but they are not, you're not installing anything on your computer, right? I mean, like you're just opening your web browser, and from the browser you are instantaneously like kind of going ahead and using those applications. So that is actually software as a service. Okay, so you don't need to install anything on your computer, but still, like you kind of have access to those applications via the browser itself. Okay, so that is SaaS. Okay, PaaS is a platform as a service where these are being used by developers. Like they don't require, say, for example, like I have a set of developers. I need to go ahead and kind of develop an application, but I don't have system administrators or like people who actually need to kind of go ahead and manage those. I just have developers and I need to start my work instantaneously. Even that is like that's given by the cloud services as a platform as a service where developers can go ahead and kind of use the services directly to build their own applications. Okay, so that is being provided by, for example, AWS Beanstalk, Google App Engine, and Windows Azure. Okay, next comes as infrastructure as a service, where this is like an Amazon console. Okay, where you start from the scratch. Okay, you launch an instance. Okay, you create an instance, and top of it you go ahead and kind of install the applications or use that as a server. So that is nothing but as an infrastructure as a services. So these are just layer. Infrastructure stays at the bottom with all the OS and like applications required for an application. If that is being provided as a service, that is coming as a platform as a service, or your like the instant applications itself, software as a service where it is given directly to users to kind of go ahead and use it. Like, so these are the categories in a cloud environment, and these are the services being provided to them. So how do we secure this? It is actually very critical. So it is not just uh, my responsibility or a user responsibility or an organization responsibility, and also someone's responsibility at the cloud environment. Say, say for example, if I'm opting for AWS or Azure or Google Cloud solutions, it is not. I cannot just go and complain, hey, my data is lost because of you. Okay, you cannot pinpoint at AWS or Azure or Google cloud providers stating that, hey, you, because of you, like I've just put your data on the cloud, because of you it has been breached. Like it's not the case. Like it's my responsibility as well. Kind of cooperate with the cloud providers, because like I'm just opting for a solution that is called that is for my convenience. So at the same time, I should have the responsibility of taking my data seriously. So in terms of keys that are like in AWS and cloud environment, you would have access and secret keys instead of usernames and passwords. So those keys, when they are given by the cloud providers, you would have to kind of secure those keys, and like that should not be let out, or like you cannot just give it out, share with friends, or like kind of just put it as a notepad file. You cannot do that. Like once that is breached, like your data is being lost, and like someone just can hack into your system with those credentials. Okay, so those keys needs to be kind of encrypted, and like all these mechanisms coming. Also, when you just put in the data on your cloud, like say you're putting the data into the S3 buckets, or like so in any of your hard disks, like you still need to encrypt the data. Like you cannot have it as a plain plain text, or like a plain a file just like that. So without encryption, like you're still your data is at risk, because these cloud providers, they have control to your data only to a certain extent. From there, they won't get into your a privacy part where you have all your files, so nobody's going to come into your server and kind of check in what's inside your server. Okay, it's your responsibility to go ahead and kind of encrypt the data inside your servers, inside your S3 buckets. So all these are, your responsibility again. And your responsibility lies in where you'll have to scan your applications, you have to scan your infra in the cloud. Okay, so you'll have to do continuous vulnerability assessments and your penetration testings on the cloud infrastructure, so that you will clearly know like where the vulnerabilities are. You will have to go ahead and patch those systems and kind of secure your systems, and that is again your responsibility as well. So next comes in, managing the logs and develop a threat intelligence. Okay, so even though I run into, I encrypt the data and I scan my apps and everything, we have developed, we have seen a SOC environment, a security operations center, where there is a team of people who actually monitors into whatever is happening inside my environment through logs. Okay, so I should develop a system, or should have people to kind of manage the logs and develop a threat intelligence. This, instead of, this can be done in either way. You can employ people to look into those logs, to just check them as they go, or you can do an automation there as well. Say if there is a kind of a malicious behavior, what actions should be taken against it. Okay, so all these can also be done through a cloud. Okay, next is like manage the identity of the users. So this is very critical, because I have set my cloud infrastructure. Okay, I have scanned my applications, I'm managing the logging and everything. But what if, a legitimate user just comes in to do something? Okay, say if I am the administrator, okay, and I have full access to the cloud environment, if my keys are stolen, okay, what would the cloud, though I have scanned everything, I have encrypted my data, I have a threat intelligence and everything, if my identity is stolen, okay, if my passwords, the access keys and the secret keys are stolen, I should have a mechanism kind of to just monitor the users as well. Because this thing we were just discussing in the very first session of the network security, where we were talking about zero security. Okay, so nobody can be trusted here. So that you will have to just kind of have complete control over the users as well. So the users credentials are to be rotated, and they are to be monitored continuously with help of apart from the access and secret keys, you can have multi-factor authentication as well, to just kind of go ahead and just have even more secure way of allowing users to access to the cloud. Okay, so you guys are clear?
இல்ல ஆனா இது இப்போ பேட்சிங் வந்து மாத்தி வருது. இப்போ என்ன உள்ள இந்தியாக்குள்ள வந்தாலும் மேட் இன் இந்தியான்னு பேட்சிங் வருது பின்னாடி.
Balaji, you're able to hear me? Satish, you're able to hear me?
அதான் அதான்
Sir, you can continue.
Okay, fine. Thanks a lot. Okay, so this is how a cloud infrastructure should be secured. Okay, so we will just go into each of the services. Okay, before that, I will just give me 1 minute here.
இப்போ நெக்ஸ்ட் இதுக்கு வந்து லொகேஷன் பார்க்கறது வந்து இப்போ இந்தியா தான் பார்க்குறாங்க. இந்தியா பிலிப்பைன்ஸ் இந்த இடம்லாம் எல்லாமே கனெக்ட் ஆகும். எல்லா ஊருமே கனெக்ட் ஆகும் சுற்றி. மதுரைனா இந்த தஞ்சாவூர் திருச்சியில் இருக்கவங்களும் வேலைக்கு போயிட்டு வருவாங்க. 1 hour ட்ராவல் தான் அது. என்ன ப்ராப்ளம் ஆக்சுவலாக இந்தியா சைனாக்கு இப்போ ரீசெண்டாக நடந்தது?
என்ன அப்படின்னா எல்ஓசி அப்படின்னு சொல்லி அங்கே என்னன்னா வந்து ஒரு 1960s to 70s வந்து ஒரு வார் நடந்தது. அந்த வாரில் என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா வந்து ரெண்டு பேருமே, இந்தியா சைனா வந்து ரெண்டு பேருமே இது பண்ணிட்டாங்க. ஒரு சர்டன் ஸ்டேஜ் வரைக்கும் அதில் வந்து வின் பண்ணது வந்து சைனா தான். என்ன அப்படின்னா நான் இந்த இடத்துல இருக்கேன், நீங்கள் அந்த இடத்துல இருக்கீங்க, இது வந்து உங்களோட பார்டர், இது வந்து என்ன பார்டர் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி இது பண்ணிக்கலாம். இப்போ என்ன பண்ணுறாங்கன்னா சைனா வந்து பூட்டானு, இந்தியாவுடைய டெரிட்டரிஸ் எல்லாமே வந்து எங்களுடைய டெரிட்டரிஸ் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்லிட்டு இப்போ வந்து ஒரு ரீசெண்டாக ஒரு 1 வீக் பேக் வந்து நேபாள் என்ன பண்ணாங்க,
நேபாள் அவங்களோட மேப்
நேபாள் வந்து
மாற்றி
அவங்கள மேப்பில் வந்து ரீகன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ட் பண்ணி இது பண்ணாங்க. ஸோ வந்து அதை வந்து இது பண்ணாங்க. ஆக்சுவலாக முன்னாடி பண்ணது தான். அதுக்கப்புறம் இந்தியா வந்து அப்போஸ் சொன்ன உடனே அதை வந்து வித்ட்ரா பண்ணிட்டாங்க. ஸோ இப்போ என்ன பண்ணாங்க அப்படின்னா திருப்பி வந்து அதே தான் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. இப்போ வந்து ஏன் அப்படின்னா சைனாவும் வந்து கம்யூனிசம், இப்போ நேபாளில் இருக்க கவர்மெண்ட்டும் வந்து ஃபுல் என்ஃபோர்ஸ் ஆஃப் கம்யூனிசம். அதனால தான் இப்போ
நேபாள் வந்து ஃப்ரெண்ட்லியாக தான் இருந்தாங்க இந்தியா கூட,
ரொம்ப friendly.
Okay. Sorry guys, like I just need to just going to quickly check screens.
Hello Jothy, Prakash, what happened?
1 minute, Satish.
Prakash, what happened?
Yeah, just give me 1 minute.
Okay. Participants,
Okay.
please mute your mic. It is creating problem for us. Please do understand and please
Muted.
mute your mic.
Unmuted.
Participants, please mute your mic. Please wait for some time. So by end of the session, we may post the feedback link both in this app as well as in the YouTube live chat as well. Jothy, now.
So Satish, able to hear me, right?
Problem outside na presenter side da. Problem nammala blame பண்றாங்க. All over India la irundhu participate பண்றாங்க.
Satish, able to hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Okay. You can present.
Okay. So guys, like if you are clear with this, can you just give a confirmation on GoToMeeting? Like I'll just quickly go through the next slide.
சொல்லுங்க அது.
அதான் ஆக்சுவலாக இப்போ ரீசெண்டாக என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா ஒரு பள்ளத்தாக்கு இப்படிதான் இருக்கும். இது வந்து சைனா, இது வந்து இந்தியா. இவங்க என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா
Okay, fine. Let me go through the next slide.
இந்தியன் சோல்ஜர்ஸ் வந்து அப்போஸ் பண்ணாங்க. அவங்க என்ன பண்ணாங்க,
Okay, so now we have, like we have been discussing on each of these factors, like where we'll have to scan your apps, you'll have to look into logs, we'll have to encrypt the data, and, like we'll have to look into the identity of the users as well, like how the users are being, interacting, or, like they're kind of getting into your cloud environment. Okay, so now we will look into each of the services which are, like I'm going to be completely AWS centric throughout the presentation. Like I'm just this is for like easier understanding, and like kind of it'll be easier for you guys, like also to kind of just go ahead and research and stick to one platform. But like there are other services with respect to Azure and Google Cloud as well, who just provides like more or less the same kind of web services as well, who actually for securing the data. Okay, so now we'll come into vulnerability management. So vulnerability management is like kind of going ahead and identifying the vulnerability, and kind of going ahead and kind of closing those loopholes. Okay, so what comes here is the AWS guard duty. So AWS guard duty is nothing but it's going to monitor your user behavior, and it is going to kind of look into the CloudTrail logs and the VPC logs and the DNS flow logs. Okay, so what this guard duty does is, like it just kinds of go ahead and look into all the logs, and it is an intelligent service where like it will kind of go ahead and collect, and like it will check for any malicious behavior, because say for example, like a user just normally comes in and even though he's an administrator, if he's just kind of going and deleting instances, or like just bring in some malicious files, okay, so all these malicious behavior by users or by devices are being collected by guard duty, and this will actually alert you that like something suspicious is happening inside the network, and this can be kind of looked into through AWS the guard duty service. Okay, so that is an intelligent service which will actually go ahead and look into all the logs, and it will monitor or it will alert you stating that like there is some attack happening within your system. Okay, so that is guard duty. So next just comes is the inspector. An inspector is nothing but like it's a vulnerability scanner. So vulnerability scanners are like for identifying what are the loopholes that are there within your systems. So with this vulnerability scanners, what we can do is with AWS Inspector, you can scan your machines, and like with the help of that, if there are any loopholes within the systems, that can be like that can be patched after we receive a vulnerability report. Okay, so you simply scan all your systems, and there will be a report generated against like stating that these are the loopholes within your system, and with that like it will give recommendations as well, where you can go ahead and kind of patch the system accordingly. So that is where for patch management we have AWS Systems Manager. So as an AWS Systems Manager, like I will kind of go ahead and give you the patches that are required for patching your environment. So patches are nothing but like updates which will actually just cover all the vulnerabilities, and it is going to kind of make your environment secure. Okay, so these are the services under vulnerability management. Okay, so you guys are clear with it. So shall I move the next topic? So Balaji or Satish, can I move to the next topic? Guys, able to hear me? Hello. Satish, you able to hear me? Or Balaji? Guys, able to hear me? Okay, fine. So I can move to the next slide, right? I mean, it's clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So fine. So we have looked into vulnerability management. Like next coming next topic is that it's logging. Okay. So what are these logging? Nothing but like it just gives the logs. Like whenever a user logs in to your system, or like he creates a file, he deletes a file, or a system is having some memory issues, it is having any CPU issues, and all these like kind of there are different logs that are generated because of user activity, and as well as because of the hardware itself.
ஆஃப்டர் லாக்டவுன் வந்து அந்த பேஸ் எல்லாம் மாற்றினா அங்கேருந்து இங்கே மாற்றினா
மாற்றுற ஐடியாவில் தான் இருக்காங்க. ஏன் அப்படின்னா ஜப்பான்லாம் வந்து ரொம்ப அடிபட்டுருக்காங்க. ரொம்ப ஒஸ்ட் சுச்சுவேஷன்ஸில் வந்து அவங்க இருக்காங்க ஜப்பான்ஸ்லாம்.
எல்லாரும் இந்த ஆஸ்திரேலியாவுக்கு போகிறதுக்கு நிறைய பேர் அந்த விசாலாம் அப்ளை பண்ணி பிஆர்லாம் அப்ளை பண்ணி ரெடி பண்ணியிருந்தாங்க. இப்போ ஆஸ்திரேலியா பயங்கரமாக அடி வாங்கியிருக்காங்க. லாக்டவுன்னா எப்படி?
அதான் எப்படி ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகி 2 months கிட்ட ஆகுது. 6 months வந்து கம்ப்ளீட் லாக்டவுன். பட் என்னன்னா வந்து ஏதோ வாரத்தில் வந்து ஒரு நாள் மட்டும் வந்து அந்த லாக்டவுன் இது வந்து இருக்காங்க.
Sir, we could not hear.
You're able to hear me now?
Okay, sir. Oh, okay.
Okay, but it's prompt me, like if there is a, an audio issue or something.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I don't know why we are facing so much of issues today. Okay. So now,
Yes, Jothy, Prakash. Yes.
okay. So we just looked into what is a cloud trail logs is. A cloud trail is nothing but like it's going to record all the infrastructure logs. That is, like whatever logs are being generated by your servers, like your CPU memory or disks, anything. There is an like it's an alert on anything. Anything with related to the logging will just be just monitored by the cloud trail. Then next comes the VPC flow logs. So what is VPC flow logs is nothing but a VPC is nothing but a virtual private cloud, which I will cover in the next slide. Okay, that is kind of an environment which is being built in, and whatever traffic like that are being uh, you know just kind of coming in. So you will actually go ahead and kind of have rules on your PPC so that like this is nothing but like kind of a firewall rules that we talked about earlier in network security. So if there is an like kind of an unauthorized access, that will be blocked, or like if the access is allowed, the access log like it is being stored in the VPC flow logs. So all the rejected and the accepted traffic logs would be stored in the VPC flow logs. Okay, so that is for the VPC flow logs. So next comes the AWS CloudWatch. So what is an AWS CloudWatch? So here what happens is like the CloudWatch will actually monitor, store, and access your log files from other sources. Okay, so all these logs will be kind of monitored, and like the CloudWatch service will go ahead and look into all these logs, and it will just give you like more granular data. So there are different sources, right? Right, because like the infrastructure logs comes from CloudTrail, the VPC logs comes from the security groups. So you need a central kind of infrastructure where you receive all those logs from various sources, and like you have a collective intelligence to kind of go ahead and like respond to all the logs. So this is a central platform for all the services is what I would say. So next comes the AWS Athena. The AWS Athena is for querying the logs. Okay, so say for example, I have an IP which I will have to query against stating that at one particular time point in time, I just want to check from this server what kind of an alerts are being generated. So I can kind of develop complex queries within AWS Athena to kind of go ahead and collect those logs from them, and just go ahead and do a detailed analysis. Okay, so a cloud trail log is nothing but it's going to collect your logs from the infrastructure. A VPC flow log is nothing but it's going to collect all the network traffic logs. The CloudWatch is nothing but a centralized place where the logs are stored. And Athena is nothing but it's going to kind of analyze those logs or to use to query those logs for more data. Okay, so you guys are clear with that, right? With logging. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Next. Okay, so now we have discussed about logs and stuff. Okay, so what is infrastructure now? Like next is the infrastructure itself. So how I have my logging, I have my I have done my vulnerability assessment, and I have my logging. So I need an infrastructure to be secured as a on the whole, right? So how do I secure my infrastructure? As I said, like the services or the servers that are given to you and the cloud are a shared platform. So what I want is, like I want a private cloud, like a kind of a virtual private cloud. I want to set it up on the cloud infrastructure. So instead of going ahead and procuring private instances or say private hardware from the cloud provider, what I can do is, on the other hand, I can just develop a virtual private cloud. So this is again, like kind of a virtual environment on top of the public infrastructure. Okay, so with the help of VPC, what I can do is I can set my own infrastructure, like how I set it in my back in my data center. Okay, within my data center, I will have my servers and uh, the switches and the firewalls and everything, and I place inside a room, right? So with this particular room, I can, like kind of take that particular room as like a model, and I can just go into the cloud and I can set up a VPC where within the VPC, I can go ahead and kind of launch my instances. I can place my servers. I can place my load balancer in a bit, kind of have a VPN gateway, have ACLs and stuff. And so this infrastructure like which I'm building within the AWS as a VPC, as a virtual private cloud. Okay, so this is where like it is going to act as it is going to give you a perception like it is completely a private cloud. Okay, so that is what a VPC is all about. So within VPC, I can have my virtual private gateways where from which so now we are kind of set up a private environment within the cloud itself. So from there, I can have a VPN tunnel back to my organization where we are talking about hybrid cloud. So from here, I can have a tunnel to my a VPN tunnel to my organization so that I can transfer and receive data. And what I can transact with the public cloud. So this is kind of more to achieve a hybrid cloud environment. Okay, so there are virtual private gateways as well, which are there within the AWS services to kind of go ahead and achieve this. And next comes the network ACLs. The network ACLs are nothing but they operate at an interface level. We are talking about firewalls, right? I mean, like in firewall, we have various zones, say like in an inside network where all your users are sitting, a DMZ network where your public facing servers are sitting, in an outside network. So all these are having different interfaces to kind of interact back with your users. Okay, so this network ACLs, like ACLs are nothing but the access control lists. Okay, so access control lists are, and when placed in the interface level, can kind of allow and restrict traffic to the services at the interface level. Okay, so next comes the security group. This can happen at an instance level. The instance level is nothing but a server is there. Okay, so you place a restriction instead of going into each of the ports, or like kind of going into each of the uh, interfaces to define an ACL. You kind of go ahead and like uh, uh, create rules at a security group. Okay, so this is at the instance level. So instead of going into the specific interfaces, you are placing a restriction on the interface level itself. Okay, say users, when they are trying to access the instance, the instance is here is nothing but your server. Okay, so when people are trying to access that server, you can define like which IP addresses from they can come in and which ports they can access my instances as well. So this can be defined in a security group. And also you can have IPS and IDS services as well within AWS, where you can like kind of go ahead and look into the signatures to kind of block or allow traffic. Okay, that is there. And the content delivery network, I think we have spoken about this already in the network security as well with load.
We could not hear the voice.
Okay. You able to hear me, Balaji?
No, it's okay.
I don't know why my audio is kind of getting muted, but still okay. So from where like you are not able to follow, like, can you just let me know?
We are cloud. We are also cloud.
Okay, so I'll just move on from the content delivery networks now. So content delivery networks. Here what it does is, like it is doing the catching of pages. Okay. Say for example, we take Google.com itself. That is a very extensively used application, or say a website. Okay. So we're using Google. Like all these web pages, or like anything related to Google. Like they're accessed by millions of people, right? So you need a kind of catching service where this catching service of content delivery networks are sitting in between you and your servers. Okay. So once you frequently, kind of go ahead and access the websites, like those pages are being stored back at the content delivery networks. And next time, like a user comes in to kind of go ahead and access the same page, okay, that he visited earlier, like instead of serving it from the server, the content delivery network has a cache of that particular web page which many users have accessed, and the cache is being kind of delivered it to the end users, so that like even if the servers go down, okay, you still have a cache of the web pages, and this can be served to users. Okay. So those are the content delivery networks. Okay. Next comes the AWS Shield, where AWS Shield are like specifically designed for preventing your distributed denial of services attacks, wherein like hackers try to kind of degrade your service, but still AWS Shield, along with the content delivery networks, these services come into place to prevent this DDoS attacks. Okay. So we looked into building a private cloud within your AWS services, and we have looked into what is VPN gateways. We looked into network ACLs. We have looked into security groups which operate at an instance level, and we looked into IDS, IPS, and CDNs and AWS Shield as well. So these are the controls that are there at the infrastructure level to kind of go ahead and secure your infrastructure. Okay, is it clear? So Balaji, can I move to next slide?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so fine. What we have done earlier is we have scanned your network. We have kind of looked into the logs. We have secured infrastructure. Next comes the important part, which is the identity and access management, which I'm talking about the credentials, or like kind of managing how the users kind of come in and access your environment. Okay. So here again, like there are different services provided by Amazon. So first comes the AWS organizations. So AWS organizations are nothing but like it is going to kind of a centralized management for controlling the various accounts in AWS. Okay, so that comes in wherein that there will not be a single account with respect to considering a bigger organization, that is like a very huge organization spread across the globe. They may not have like a single account, but still they will have their own different accounts to kind of go ahead and establish various infrastructure services, or say applications to be given out to customers on a daily basis. So I need a centralized management, okay, to kind of go ahead and look into what are being done into various accounts. Okay, so I will have different 10 accounts in AWS. Okay, as an organization, I should have a centralized place to looking into what is happening into these accounts, and what is the users they are doing with respect to their credentials as well. So instead of going ahead and logging into each of the account and like managing credentials and policies for users, I will have a centralized management where I can kind of administer all the users within my organization. So that is nothing but the AWS organizations. Okay, so that is the first thing. Next comes the IAM policies. So with respect to IAM policies, we have two different types. That is the identity-based policy and the resource-based policy. So as the name says, like identity-based policy is nothing but the permissions and the control that you give, the assign it on a users. Say like one user one, who is a developer, I can give access to him, and at the same time with developer two, or like who is subordinate to him, I can have at least a privileged access to given that to that users. Okay, so with this I am assigning the identity based policy, wherein I'm defining the kind of access being given to users based on users. Okay, so that is nothing but your identity based policy. The resource based policy are given to resources. Okay, say I can restrict my resources. Okay, say like I can only kind of edit this. I can only read this. Okay, so all these restrictions which are placed on resources are nothing but your resource-based policy, wherein like you don't want all the users to kind of go ahead and access that resources. So you will place a restriction on the resource itself, stating that these group of users or these users are not allowed to do kind of rewrite or delete or anything on the specific server or the S3 bucket. Okay, so by defining the policies at the resource level, like you can also kind of go ahead and manage the people with respect to access to the resources. So you can do it either via identity or via the resource based. Okay, next comes in the cognitive. So the cognitive is nothing but it is a federation kind of a service where users can log in from the social media platforms like you use Google, Facebook, and Twitter. So whenever you sign up for applications, okay, nowadays what happens, like you don't give your whenever there is a sign up page, you don't see to enter all your username, password, your details, address, phone number, email. You don't give all these data, right? I mean, like all you do is like log in with Facebook or log in with Google or log in with Twitter. So this way is nothing but a federation. What happens in a federation is like uh, it is actually a centralized management through which all your credentials are being managed by the services. And instead of going ahead and creating a user or like kind of logging in through that specific uh, credentials, what you do is you log in via the Facebook credentials itself. So this kind of federation services are also supported in AWS, which comes in the AWS Cognitive. Okay, so when taken to identity and access management, what are you doing is you're managing all the various accounts using AWS organizations. You're having policies assigned to users, or like you're having policies which can be assigned to resources like your servers or hard disk and S3 buckets and those stuffs as well. And you also have a cognitive service through which like you can kind of log in through your Facebook or any social media platform accounts. Okay, so this way you can kind of manage your users into the cloud. Okay. Next comes the final part, like with respect to data protection. So Balaji, was my voice audible and was it clear? Balaji or Satish, able to hear me?
Yes, your voice is very clear.
Okay, fine. Let's move into like the final part, like with nothing but your data protection. Okay. So as I was saying, like whenever you just use the services with AWS, like you just the credentials comes in with access key and a secret key, and you will have to store those keys, in kind of a secured manner to kind of have a control over or secure your resources. Okay, so Cloud HSM is one of the services which are doing which are given by the AWS. So Cloud HSM is nothing but kind of a HSM is actually a kind of a hardware, whereas a hardware security module, okay, where it is kind of a box where all your keys will be stored. Okay, so Amazon just came up with a solution of a Cloud HSM, which is like kind of a little cheaper when compared to the actual hardware itself. Instead of storing all those hardware inside a specific box, which is more costly, and like this kind of a security is required when you just go into the PCI level or can store your service.
So no audio.
Able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As I said, like a cloud system is nothing but it's going to store your keys, and these are not being shared with other customers. So you have a dedicated hardware, or you say, like a dedicated infrastructure that is being given to you. So in order to kind of go ahead and secure your keys in a more efficient way. Okay, so that is the cloud HSM. Then comes the key management service. Here is nothing but like it is used to kind of manage your keys, which is kind of comparatively cheaper with respect to the cloud HSM service itself. And the next comes finally the AWS certificate manager. So certificate managers are nothing but like you just go into google.com or say facebook.com. Yeah, you're not just going to the HTTP of the site, you're just going to HTTPS, right? So it says a secure site. So there, if you see, like if you just go ahead and click on that lock button at the top of your screen, okay, so there will be a certificate against, like there'll be a certificate detail which would be just pop up, which is then like issued by certain customers. So like Verizon or like say VeriSign or Komodo, or like you have different providers who provide this service. So what are these? Like so they are like people who are providing this service, so that they're giving you a certificate saying that you are a legitimate users. Okay, so instead of like me going ahead and like kind of launching websites and without my identity, I can just bring in users, hack their data, and just go off just like that. That cannot be possible, like in a certified sites. Okay, so there you have a certificate manager who actually looks into and verifies your identity, like looks into who you are, what company you are in from, what is your contact number, what is your details. So all these will be verified only based on that. Like the companies will just give you a certificate. So AWS certificate manager, like they actually make this kind of even more simpler. They just give the certificates, wherein instead of going to an external provider, when you have an instance within the AWS itself, you can go ahead and purchase the AWS certificates, and like you can manage them, you can deploy them on your instances and kind of manage them from the AWS certificate manager itself, instead of going ahead and approaching third-party vendors. So the AWS certificate manager is nothing but it is going to give all these services, wherein it's going to give you the certificate, so you can go ahead and kind of deploy it on your servers. And when when people come and kind of access your website, which is sitting in the cloud, they are shown with a certificate stating that like it is secure, and that certificate is being provided by Amazon. Okay, so these are the other services with respect to data protection. So with respect to data protection, what we've seen is like there are cloud system services as well, which is used to store your data, and you have a key management service as well to kind of store your keys in a secure manner or in an encrypted manner. And finally, we saw like AWS certificate manager, who actually gives you certificates to kind of go ahead and install them on your systems. Okay, so this is with respect to data protection. Okay, I think we have come to the end of the slide. As we have told, like the Base to Secure is an organization to provide the highest quality standards of security services. I think yesterday Rajesh took a session from Base to Secure, and if you need more information and training, like you can just contact me. You can visit the website Base to, send an email to contact@basetosecure.com. So with respect to certificates, again, like they do provide cybersecurity certificates, network certificates, and with respect to AWS security, Azure security, and Google Cloud as well. So all these trainings are being provided. So you can simply visit the website basetosecure.com or send an email to contact@basetosecure.com. Okay. So that's it, guys. Like, do we have any question and answers? There were a lot of disturbances in between. Like, thanks again for a lot of patience. And if you guys have any questions, like you can just quickly do that, because like we are already running out of time. I have to just log in for my work as well. So Balaji, do we have any questions?
Someone has asked, what is the difference between IPS and IDS?
Okay, so I think we have discussed this multiple times, but still, like I would like to answer this. So an IDS, an IPS is nothing but like an intrusion prevention system and intrusion detection system. So these are nothing but devices, or like as in when taken in a on-prem network environment, it is an appliance. When you take as a service, like as a cloud service, an IDS, IPS, these are services as well, which will actually look into signatures to just kind of go ahead and allow or block traffic. So whenever a user is trying to kind of do some activities, say like like he's coming into your instance, and if he's trying to kind of go ahead and delete random files, okay, that is an unusual behavior. Or say like he's trying to inject an attack into your system, okay. So these signatures are there within the IDS IPS, and the IDS IPS will kind of go ahead and look into those signatures, and the traffic will be blocked based on the signatures that are available in IPS. Okay, so that is the intrusion prevention system, which is the IPS. The IDS is nothing but it's going to detect and alert you, stating that there is a malicious activity happening within your environment, and it will ask you to kind of go ahead and action on that. So that's an IDS.
Hello.
So Balaji, any more questions?
Hello, Jothy. Can you please elaborate about base to secure more, because people are asking what is base to secure is. So you can give more introduction.
Okay. Yeah. So base to secure, it's an organization, it's a startup which is being started to kind of cater the high quality services given to customers. So base to secure is a place where it is aimed at providing infrastructure services and security services to organization. At the same time, we are also providing you know trainings which are being given to people. Okay, so as I said, like there are different levels of training for each of the cyber security or network security or cloud security as well. So any of you people are, if you are interested into just going ahead and would like to take up training, you can send in an email to contact@basetosecure.com, and there people will be like kind of they will assist you with respect to trainings, and they can arrange trainings for you as well.
Hello, is there any questions, Balaji sir?
No, there are no other queries in the chat box. So I'd like to thank Mr. Jothy Prakash once again for this valuable session.
Thank you. So, guys, you can go ahead and kind of look into the website basetosecure.com, where you will find more kind of information on all these trainings, and as well at the same time, as a part of this AWS cloud securities session which was taken today, like you can just go ahead and just do a Google, or like kind of look into all the services which were explained today. So that will give a even more a clear idea on all these services and how are they being used within the environment. So these are only minimal services, or like the most important services that I have covered. Okay, apart from these services, there are so many other services which are being given by AWS and Azure and say Google Cloud, whichever whichever cloud platform you are just opting to. So there are multiple services. It is left up to the architects and the company to decide, because each of these services do come up with a cost as well. Okay, so it's not like like everything is free. Each of these services comes with a different cost. So it is left up to the architect to decide on the best tools to select from and use them based upon the requirements of the users. So there are multiple services which you can explore. Okay, so you can kind of reach out to basetosecure.com for training.
Hello, Balaji sir. Can you find any other queries in the chat box, also in the comment box?
No, sir, we did not hear you.
Balaji sir, can you find any other questions? Do you have any other questions in chat box as well as in YouTube comment box?
In the chat box, one more question: is the training is free of cost?
Okay, fine. See, like the trainings here, they are instructor-led trainings. They are not recorded sessions. Okay. The session, that would be instructor-led training. So it is not just one day or 2 days. Like for each of the levels of trainings, there is a separate session and schedule arranged, and there will be an instructor who is just online with you, just taking on trainings on each of the training. So it's an instructor led, and as well at the same time, like you can post your kind of um, so you can send an email there, like, so the costing will be just discussed there. The basis of care like ensures that the high quality trainings are given at the minimal cost. Comparatively, if you say, the quality is of high standard, at the same time, like it comes up with a minimal cost. I would not say free, like, see, there are free resources everywhere, okay, but someone need to kind of sit, edit this, put it into a format, and deliver it to people, okay. So it's not like everything comes for free, but it is like comes, here the material is, the main motto of doing this, like it's to deliver quality material at a minimal cost, comparatively at a minimal cost, comparatively with a high quality. Okay, so though it is charged, it is not charged to the maximum. Comparatively, it will be a minimal cost, and they can assure that, like they give you the best cost in the market. Okay, so you can send in your queries. You can send in your queries or write emails to them as well. So they can actually take free webinars as well. So just to kind of uh, check where your interests are in. Based on that, like if you need more trainings, which are at a minimal cost comparatively with other trainers, you can do that. You can still send an email. Just check with them.
So that's the end of
Sir, I think
Balaji sir.
there was no sessions, I mean, no queries in this.
Yeah,
our
thanks.
session.
So we have come for the end of the session, end of the day session.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Balaji. Thanks, Satish.
Okay, sir. So thank you, participants. Thank you for being
Muted.
5 days. And there is a problem today with the network, and we deeply apologize for this.
Thank you, participants.
Unmuted.
It's a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. So first and foremost, I would like to thank our beloved secretary and correspondent, Dr. P. Chinnadurai, directors, Sri Vijay Rajeshwari, Mr. Sri Sakti Kumar, Mr. Saranya Sri Sakti Kumar, and numerous group of institutions. Despite their busy schedule, he has found time to grace this online faculty development program in EdTech security to be a resounding success. I would also like to extend my gratitude to our respected principal, Dr. K. Mani, Kalinga Engineering College, for his interest and contributed support. And also express my heart thanks to Professor, Head of the Department of Computer Science Engineering, and Dr. L. Jabishila, Professor, Department of Computer Science Engineering, for their valuable contribution. I also thank our entire resource persons for their words of encouragement. Their able guidance has always encouraged us. I thank them for their interest and contribution of knowledge. I owe a special gratitude to Dr. S. Balaji, Associate Professor, Department of CSE, Dr. P.J. Satish Kumar, Associate Professor, Department of CSE, and Mr. S.A.K. Jainravuddin, Assistant Professor, Department of CSE, who have worked hard to make this online session hassle-free and make this a successful occasion. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants for your valuable time and cooperation in making this program a grand success. Finally, I leave you this inspiring quote by Martin Luther King: "The essence of all beautiful art is gratitude." Once again, I thank you all for your wonderful cooperation and attention. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Balaji sir, for the vote of thanks. And thanks, everyone. Thanks, all the participants, for being with us for the past 5 days. And I hope this session would have helped you for getting some knowledge in networks as well. So sorry for the delay in the last session. So we had some network issue. That's the problem here. And I hope everyone have filled the feedback form which is posted in the chat box as well as in the live chat in YouTube as well. So on completing this feedback, the participants will be receiving the certificates depending upon the criteria which was mentioned earlier. 80% of attendance. Depending upon the attendance, you will get the certificate by next week to your registered mail ID. Thank you, one and all. Thank you. Balaji sir, shall we close this session? Balaji sir. Balaji sir, can you hear me?
Sir, yes,
Close the session.
hello,
Yes sir.
hello.
Yes sir.
Yeah, we can close the session, sir.
Yeah, I
Yes,
did my
Doctor,
I filled my feedback.
No
I
problem.
can.
So depending upon your feedback, depending upon the criteria
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we
yeah.
have, you will get the certificate in next week, sir.
Yeah, no problem. I filled just now. I filled the feedback.
Okay, sir. Okay.
It was good session. Thanks a lot for your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.